St. Louis 1-inch height advantage, and George Burkle, who goes into jump center at 6'8" against 6'7" Ed Beck. Ball game underway. Memlitz behind him. Cox stabs and misses as Rich Rogers picks it up and moves in front court for the Billikens. We're underway. Bounce pass over to Cal Burnett. Moves to the left, keeping it deep. Back to Rogers. Down the right side to Burkle. One bounce dribble and back out front to Burnett. Burnett moves cautiously to the right, but staying deep and against Vernon Hatton. Bounce pass goes over to Rich Rogers. He's staying very deep. Over to Burkle. Back to Rogers. St. Louis holding the ball out of play now. Making no attempt to go for the basket or work any screens. Here it is to Burkle. Outside to Big Bob Ferry. Beck lets him go loose. Down the left, Memlitz. Jump shot, good. Jack Memlitz breaks the scoring ice with a 15-foot jump shot from the left. And St. Louis leads 2-0 as Hatton in front court works left to Cox and back to Hatton. Hatton out front to Krigler. Back to Hatton, who moves back out front with it. Cuts to the right. Gets a screen from Beck. Breaks for the basket on Memlitz. Gives to Cox. Jump shot. No good after two bounces on the rim. Burnett of St. Louis rebounds. And after 1 minute, the Billikens lead 2-0 with possession as Rich Rogers moves back in front court. Chris crosses to Burnett and keeps. Bounce pass to Memlitz on the pivot. Spins to the right. Over Cox. Short with a shot that's rebounded by Ed Beck. Two men go for him. He fires a high pass to Hatton in front court. Kicks off to the right to Krigler, who shoots. No good. Nice rebound by Adrian Smith. Outside to Johnny Cox. Bakes moves in. Hook shot from the free throw line. No good. And Burnett again rebounds for St. Louis. So two trips, no points for Kentucky as St. Louis holds on 2-0 with Memlitz in front court to Burnett. Down the left side. Over Hatton. Shot no good. High is Ed Beck of Kentucky for the rebound. Pulls up, feeds to Hatton, moving over the dividing stripe to the top rim of the circle for a jump shot. It's no good. Tapped up by Krigler, no good. Taken off by Ferry of St. Louis to Memlitz, and it's 2-on-1 with Rogers against Hatton. The shot, no good. Krigler taps out. Burnett of St. Louis gets it, shoots short to the left, no good. Beck's got it for Kentucky with a foul called on the play against Memlitz of St. Louis. First foul of the ball game goes against the St. Louis captain, Jack Memlitz. St. Louis 2, Kentucky nothing on a field goal by Memlitz. We've played 1 minute and 54 seconds. Ed Beck at the free throw line for one shot. Smith and Hatton are backed up in safety off the top rim of the circle as Beck's free throw's good. The first Kentucky point of the game. It's 2-1 as the Bills get the ball. Burnett gives it to Rich Rogers. 6'3" sophomore, the shortest one of the Billikens in front court. Over to Burnett. Brings it to the left, keeping it deep over to Rogers. Down the right side to Burkle. Back to Rogers. Takes it free throw line deep. Back to Burnett. Wide open. Lays it up. No good. Johnny Cox rebounds for Kentucky. Whips in front court to Krigler, who dropped the ball and walked with it. And it's out of bounds to St. Louis. Memlitz passing in to Burnett. Burnett slows it down. Walks over the midcourt stripe. Calling his play with the left hand. High. Pass to the pivot to Ferry. Spins to the right and takes a hook. No good. Nice rebound by Burnett, who lays it up. Good, counts, and a foul on Kentucky. Personal foul. Ed Beck, his first one. The field goal by Burnett is his first one. St. Louis now leads 4-1 after 2.5 minutes. And Burnett is on the free throw line for one try. Burnett puts the right foot right up on the line, pulls the left one back, and shoots. Good. St. Louis 5, Kentucky 1. Hatton in front court. Sets up out deep. Calls Adrian Smith, flips it to him. Smith sets it up now. Cuts, goes down the middle on Burnett, lays it up no good. Beck taps it up no good. And taking it off Burkle of St. Louis as Kentucky missed two wide open shots. Down the left, breaking in. Ferry against Beck at the baseline. Stops, passes deep to Burnett. Back to Ferry. A 15-foot hook. Good. Bob Ferry with his first field goal. And St. Louis leads by 6 points, 7-1. Kentucky unable to hit. As they are down by 6 points now, Hatton breaks down the left side. Two men go for him, and he passes back to Beck, back to Hatton. St. Louis fans rolling now with a big lead. Here's Adrian Smith down the right to Krigler. Back to Hatton. He weaves, moves down the right side, goes under the basket, comes up with a hook shot. Good. Whistle at the baseline. Goal counts and a foul against St. Louis 6'8" Bob Ferry. His first foul and the second one against the Billikens. As Vernon Hatton gets Kentucky's first field goal after 3 minutes and 22 seconds of play. Hatton is up for one free throw. Two-hander good. And it's a 7-4 ball game with the Billikens swinging back to the offensive. Rich Rogers to Cal Burnett, who walks up the backcourt, gives it to Rogers, moving over the midcourt stripe. Rogers crisscrosses with Burnett, keeps the ball. Down the right side to Burkle, to Burnett, to Ferry. Comes off the pivot, deep to the right. High one under the basket to Memlitz, charges in, can't shoot. Outside to Rogers to Burnett. Burnett breaks to the right, gives into the pivot to Ferry, moves into the 3-second zone and hooks. No good this time. Out for the rebound, pushing foul is called against Kentucky. John Krigler. That is the first foul on Krigler, the second foul on each team. Jack Memlitz of St. Louis will take one try. The Billikens own 3 field goals. The Wildcats have just 1 as they trail 3 points. Now 4 as Memlitz drops in the free throw. Kentucky 4, St. Louis 8 as Adrian Smith comes in front court with it to set it up with Vernon Hatton. Passes to him down the left side to Johnny Cox. Out front to Adrian Smith. 25-foot set shot. No good. Taking it off Memlitz of St. Louis. Holds up, had his glasses knocked off on the floor, and an official's time is taken to let Memlitz get the eyeglasses on. We played 3 minutes and 56 seconds, and Memlitz wants to get a drying rag now. St. Louis leading 8-4. Burnett with 3 points, Memlitz with 3, Ferry with 2. For Kentucky, Hatton's got 3, Beck 1, that's it. Kentucky has been unable to hit either inside or outside in these early 4 minutes of play. As we go back now with Rich Rogers moving in front court for the Billikens, the shortest of the men at 6'3". Down the left to Memlitz and out to Burnett. Then it goes to Ferry, back under the basket to Rich Rogers, falls away and misses. And a tie-up comes as the Kentucky center, Ed Beck, hits the floor. He'll be jumping against Bob Ferry, the St. Louis center, giving the Billikens 1-inch height advantage on their free throw line. Here's the toss and the tap. Whistled from the outside as the ball was tossed up into the air. They'll jump again. Toss and the tap again. Goes to Rich Rogers of St. Louis. Outside to Burnett. St. Louis leading 8-4 here at Kiel Auditorium. Over it goes to Rich Rogers. Bounce pass to Memlitz on the left, deep. Breaks out. Flips one across the way to Burkle. Fakes, breaks in on Johnny Cox. Pivots. Cox almost got him tied up. Passes out to Burnett. In the pivot to Ferry. Moves to the right. Hooks over Beck again. This one's no good. With it, Adrian Smith rebounding. Holds on against a slap by Ferry. Comes up into front court to the free throw line. Gives to Beck, top of the circle. Off the right side. It's passed over to Vernon Hatton. Moves to the baseline. 3 men go for him. He fakes to shoot. Flips it out to Cox from the right corner. He hits. Johnny Cox with his first field goal of the game cuts the St. Louis lead to 2 points at 8-6. The Billikens had a 7-1 lead as Kentucky has outscored them now 5-1. Burnett in front court, breaks down the right side to the corner. Bounce pass in the pivot to Ferry, moves out in the 3-second zone. Passes out to Burkle and gets out. Burkle down the right side. Bounce pass out to Rogers, to Burnett. Down the left side to Memlitz. Cuts and goes down the left side deeper, over to Burnett. Brings it out front to the top rim of the circle. Passes out deep to Rich Rogers now near the center court jump circle as the Billikens hold the ball out of play. We've come 5.5 minutes. St. Louis 8, Kentucky 6. Each team's picked up 2 free throws. Here's a bad pass intended for Memlitz from Rogers out of bounds without being touched, and it's Kentucky's ball. Vernon Hatton to Adrian Smith, who moves up over the midcourt stripe. Down the right side to Krigler. Back to Smith. Into Hatton, knocked up in the air. Cox picks it off. Flips it over to Smith, who brings it back out front to set it up. Cuts to the top rim of the circle, back outside with it. Down the left side to Cox. Kentucky takes Beck out deep, leaving the middle open to drive. Hatton goes on Ferry under the basket, can't shoot, comes out, gives to Krigler in the left corner. Down the baseline, he pulls up, shoots one to Beck, spins into the 3-second zone, a hook. No good, taken off by Ferry of St. Louis, who walks with it. And the ball goes out of bounds to Kentucky on the left side of the offensive court. St. Louis 8, Kentucky 6. Hatton gives to Beck in the left corner. Back to Hatton. A one-handed shot. No good. Short off the rim to Krigler, who lays it in. John Krigler, with his first field goal, ties the game at 8-8. First time Kentucky has been able to pull up on even terms. 13.5 minutes to go in this first half. Rich Rogers in front court for St. Louis to Burnett, keeping it deep. Back over to Burnett, breaking to the right. Into the pivot it goes. Ferry breaks in on Beck, who blocked the shot, but across the arm foul on Ed Beck, his second one of the game. And it's the third foul against Kentucky in this half. Bob Ferry of St. Louis. 2 shots. Neither team has missed a free throw in 6 minutes, 40 seconds of action. Here's the first one missed by Ferry, the 6'8" St. Louis center. Ferry, who owns one of the 3 Billiken field goals, gets the next one. And St. Louis is back in front, 9-8. Hatton to Adrian Smith in front court. Pulls Rogers up on his back with a beautiful fake. And that's the 3rd foul against each team. Rich Rogers' first one of the game. Adrian Smith makes his first appearance at the free throw line. 13 minutes, 16 seconds here in the first half, and the Billikens with a 1-point lead. Smith shoots, good. 9-9 the score, tied for the second time. Back into front court, Rich Rogers of St. Louis. Passes to Cal Burnett. Down the right side to Burkle, who brings it to the top rim of the circle. Gives over to Rogers, wide open. He shoots to the left, no good. Krigler rebounds for Kentucky. Comes rolling out with it to trigger a 3-3 fast break. Pulls up down the right side, gives to Cox. Comes down the baseline and steps on it. St. Louis takes over. Burnett passing into Rich Rogers, who moves up the backcourt. Passing to Burnett, now into the attack court. Down the right to Burkle. He follows Burnett in and takes a jump shot, no good, over the rim to Krigler of Kentucky. Stabbing for it, Memlitz knocks it down. Krigler picks it up. Bounce pass out to Cox under the St. Louis basket. Up the way to Adrian Smith in front court. Smith sets it up now. Passing Hatton. Down the left side to Cox. Fakes a jump shot. Breaks it under the basket. A foul is called. It's against St. Louis. George Burkle drawing his first one. That's the 4th foul against St. Louis. And here's the first substitution of the game. Going out is Rich Rogers, and in to replace him, another sophomore, Jim Daly from Joplin, Missouri. Daly, 5'10", weighs 150. He's 19 years old. 12 minutes and 23 seconds to play here in the first half at Kiel Auditorium. Kentucky and St. Louis tied up 9-9. St. Louis had a 7-1 lead. Each team's picked up 3 field goals, 3 free throws, as Johnny Cox of Kentucky shoots, good. Kentucky is on top for the first time in the game at 10-9. Kentucky has outscored St. Louis 9-2 since the Billikens went on top, 7-1. Burnett in front court, gives over to Daly, the little 5'10" boy. Kentucky gets back some of that lost height out front. Burnett down the right side to Burkle, gets a screen, and Burkle shoots, good. First field goal for George Burkle, and St. Louis back in the lead at 11-10. Vernon Hatton in front court, down the left to Cox and back to Hatton. Adrian Smith goes through out to Krigler. He hands to Hatton, who brings it back out to set it up. Beck playing a high pivot at the free throw line. As Smith drives down the right side, spins for the basket and walks with it, and it's out of bounds to St. Louis. Jack Memlitz passes quick to Pete Daly, moving in front court, down the left corner. Gives off to Memlitz, jump shot, good. Jack Memlitz with his second field goal, and St. Louis leads 13-10. Up in the front court, Adrian Smith to Johnny Cox. Hatton goes through, the pass to Krigler at the top of the circle from the free throw line. The shot, no good. Beautiful tap, but Cox rolls out of there. Fight for the ball as it hits the floor. St. Louis has got it. Burnett pulling it in. Goes a high pass over Hatton, and Jim Daly pulls it in. St. Louis picking up 2 quick field goals to come from behind and on top by 3 points, 13-10. Memlitz again from the left, good. 3 field goals, 7 points for Jack Memlitz. And St. Louis, after 9 minutes of play, is on top of 5, 15-10. Vernon Hatton in front court, passing over to Adrian Smith. Down the left to Johnny Cox and out to Hatton. Hatton breaks down against Daly, turns his back to him, fakes to Cox and hooks. Good. Vernon Hatton with his second field goal and 5th point pulls Kentucky within 3 at 15-12. Jim Daly to Cal Burnett. 25 years old, Burnett, who's played 4 years of service ball before coming to college. Here's Memlitz from 25 feet. Good again. The red-hot Billiken captain, Jack Memlitz, pumps in his 4th field goal. St. Louis 17, Kentucky 12. Vernon Hatton in front court. Tripping foul against Johnny Cox, who got his feet locked up with Cal Burnett. That's the first foul on Cox. And as we march the length of the court, let's take 10 seconds for station identification. This is the Standard Oil Sports Network.
WVLK, Lexington, Kentucky. It's 1 minute past 10 o'clock.
Back to Kiel Auditorium, St. Louis, Missouri, as time has been taken by Kentucky. It is the first time out in the game. With a score, St. Louis 17, Kentucky 12. The Billikens have outscored Kentucky 7-1 since the Wildcats went on top 11-10 for their first lead of the game. Top man Vernon Hatton with 5 points. Johnny Cox has picked up 3. John Krigler 2. Adrian Smith and Ed Beck have each added 1. For St. Louis, of course, the big man is Jack Memlitz with 9 points. Only 3 behind Kentucky. 4 field goals and a free throw. Next, Cal Burnett with 3 points. Bob Ferry, 3 points. George Burkle, 2 points. This is the first time out of the game with St. Louis in front, 17-12. 10 minutes and 17 seconds to play. Of course, that cheer coming directly from behind us was from the St. Louis cheering section. Now across the way, the other half is going to match it. More basketball Monday night over these same Standard Oil stations. 8:45 Eastern Time, 7:45 Central Time for Kentucky and St. Louis. The game being played in Dallas, Texas. Kentucky is back and ready to go. The Billikens have not yet come out on the floor. Now St. Louis leaves the bench with a 5-point lead and free throw coming. Each team has committed 4 personal fouls. We're only 17 seconds away from the midpoint of the first half. Cal Burnett, who has not missed a free throw, is up for 1 St. Louis free throw on a backcourt foul. Here's Burnett's shot. No good. Tapped by Ferry. No good. Rebounding John Krigler of Kentucky. Passes up to Ed, back to Vernon Hatton, who gets over the midcourt stripe with it. Passes over to Krigler, down in the left corner to Odie Smith. Back out to Krigler. Hands to Smith, bringing it back out front now to set it up with Beck on the pivot. Down the left side to Krigler. Back to Smith, out to Johnny Cox, top of the circle. Most to the right gives to Hatton. Hatton into a crouch off Johnny Cox with a screen. Breaks in against Memlitz. Takes a shot as Memlitz tried to fake the foul. It's no good, and the jump is called. On the Kentucky free throw line, Cal Burnett at 6'5" against John Krigler at 6'3" gives St. Louis 2 inches height advantage. 9 minutes, 49 seconds here in the first half. Now Burnett rubbing his right jaw. Steps out, steps back in. Tap goes to Memlitz. Over to Burkle. Passes to Burnett. The Billikens have the ball with a 5-point lead. Jim Daly in front court. Passing over to Burnett. Burnett to Daly. Down the right side to Burkle and back to Daly. Moving it into the right corner. Out to Burnett deep to Memlitz. Memlitz breaks to the left, and Krigler tries to fight through and fouls. John Krigler committing his 2nd personal and the 5th one against Kentucky. Bob Ferry is on the free throw line. He's hit 1, missed 1. Ferry shoots a 2-handed free throw. Fires it good. St. Louis 18, Kentucky 12, and the Billikens have that 6-point lead back, which they originally built at 7-1. Kentucky in a drought. Hatton bounce pass on the right side to Johnny Cox. Down in the right corner to Adrian Smith. Out front to Hatton. Hatton moves to the top of the circle, and a high jump shot no good. Off the rim to Ed Beck. Has it taken away by Memlitz of St. Louis. Memlitz double team. Now hooks a high pass almost right into our face. Picked off by Burkle, thank him. Up in front court, Burnett. Down the right side and into the pivot. Beck smacked it away, but fouled. Ed Beck committing his 3rd foul of the game. And the 6th foul against Kentucky. Nine minutes and 3 seconds to go. As Bob Ferry on the St. Louis free throw line has hit 2 out of 3. Shoots 1, in and out. Beck rebounds as Phil Johnson waits to come into the Kentucky lineup. Passes up to Adrian Smith to Vernon Hatton as we go into the last 9 minutes of the first half. St. Louis leading 18-12. Ed back down the right side to Adrian Smith, and Memlitz beautifully blocked his shot out of bounds. Beautiful play by Memlitz, who came off the weak side forward against Krigler to knock it out of bounds. Hatton passes in from the right side of the offensive court to Adrian Smith. He moves to the left side. Backs away deep now. Gives to Hatton in close quarters as St. Louis is playing it tight defensively out front. Hatton to Beck. Moves out to the free throw line. Gives off the right side to Adrian Smith against Burnett. He takes a 15-foot jump shot. Good. Adrian Smith with his 1st field goal and 3rd point to make it an 18-14 ball game. Kentucky breaking its scoring drought. Jim Daly back in front court for the Billikens. Down the left side to Memlitz. It rolled right up Daly's arm, and Memlitz got it back. Into the pivot. Goes to Bob Ferry. Outside to Jim Daly. On the left side, set shot. No good. Off with it, Vernon Hatton. Picked that one up as it bounced outside over the big man. St. Louis with 2 6'8" men under the basket against 6'7" Ed Beck. Hatton in front court to the top rim of the circle. Memlitz playing him loosely. Passes over to Adrian Smith. Moves to the right side. Dumps it down to Beck, who's playing off at a forward. Beck outside to Smith again now. Fakes a shot, breaks and gets away from Daly, who fouled him, trying to pick him up as he jumped to shoot. Phil Johnson becomes Kentucky's first substitute, replacing Ed Beck. Johnson at 6'6", weighs 190. 21-year-old junior from Lexington, who's the number 6 scorer with 13 points, an average of 4.3. Adrian Smith is getting one shot. It's good. Jim Daly's first personal foul was also the 5th against St. Louis. It's an 18-15 ball game. St. Louis leading by 3 points. Back in front court now. Daly down the left side to Memlitz. Memlitz, a bounce pass in the pivot to Bob Ferry, takes a sweeping hook. Good. Bob Ferry with his second field goal. St. Louis leads 20-15. Right across the floor from us is Eddie Hickey with a microphone, and every St. Louis substitute wears earphones to listen to what he has to say. Here's Krigler breaking to the right, giving to Johnny Cox. He takes the jump shot, good. So Johnny Cox matches up with 2 field goals, and it's St. Louis 20, Kentucky 17. With 7 minutes here in the first half at St. Louis. Daly to the left side to Memlitz. Back to Daly against Adrian Smith. The foul on the play against Adrian Smith of Kentucky for blocking his first foul. And now the bonus rule is in effect. That's the 7th one against the Wildcats. Jim Daly on the free throw line. Here's Daly, who hasn't scored. Sighting, shooting, no good. Johnson taps right back to Daly of St. Louis. It takes a 10-footer, good. So Jim Daly, with his first field goal of the night, makes it St. Louis 22, Kentucky 17. Cats have had one lead, 11-10. Adrian Smith in front court. Pivots, gives to Johnny Cox on the left side. Outside to Hatton. Hatton setting it up with Johnson on the pivot now. Calls Cox out, gets him there. St. Louis won't take the screen, though, so Hatton takes a one-handed shot. No good from 20 feet. Cox with a beautiful tap rolls off. Stabbed up, no good by Krigler all the way around the rim. Krigler fights for it and gets it. Now brings it out front, passing to Adrian Smith. Man, that ball then just would not go for the Wildcats. Beautiful tap by Cox, another one by Krigler that just wouldn't fall. Cox takes a 15-foot hook, and it rolls in. Johnny Cox with his third field goal makes it St. Louis 22, Kentucky 19. In front court, Cal Burnett arches a high pass to Ferry off the rim of the basket, and Krigler stabs it off there for Kentucky. Passes over to Adrian Smith. Now moves it up into front court for the Cats. Setting it up out deep. Got Phil Johnson on the pivot at the free throw line as Hatton moves down the left side. Hooks it to Smith from 15 feet. Good. Adrian Smith with his second field goal. St. Louis timeout, their first of the ball game, with 5 minutes and 41 seconds here in the first half at Kiel Auditorium, St. Louis. Kentucky 21, St. Louis 22, as the Wildcats have battled back from another 6-point deficit. Scoring to this point, Johnny Cox, 7 points. John Krigler, 2. Ed Beck, who's not in the game at the moment, 1. Adrian Smith, 6. Vernon Hatton, 5. All the Kentucky starters have scored at least 1 point. Phil Johnson, the 6th man, has not yet scored. For St. Louis, Jack Memlitz, 9 points. Cal Burnett, 3. Bob Ferry, 6. George Burkle, 2. Jim Daly, 2. As St. Louis is out in front, 22-21. Kentucky has 8 field goals. St. Louis has 9. The Wildcats on the free throw line have picked up all 5, while St. Louis has missed 3, missed 4 out of 8. The bonus rule is in effect against Kentucky, not against St. Louis. Every Billiken except Burnett has committed 1 foul. No change in either lineup. Jim Daly of St. Louis under the Kentucky basket to put it in play now. The Billikens with a 1-point lead. Cal Burnett gets the incoming pass. Each team has played 6 men. Over to Daly, who moves it into front court for the Billikens. Takes her down the left side, arches a high one to Ferry on the pivot, gives to Memlitz. Jump shot, no good this time. Comes off the left side to Adrian Smith, and Bob Ferry falls over his back, knocking him to the floor. The jump ball will give St. Louis 8 inches height advantage, and 6'8" Bob Ferry. jumping on the St. Louis free throw line. Here's the toss. Nobody gets to it. Adrian Smith got it as it fell right back down to him. He moves up in the front court now to the top rim of the circle. Almost lost it to Daly. Gives to Hatton a bad pass that he has to go outside to get. Down the left side to Johnny Cox. Looks behind him. Hooks one to Krigler on the free throw line. Breaks in, and Memlitz hooked it right away from him out of bounds. Memlitz playing a heads-up defensive game for the Billikens here. Hatton off the right side of the offensive court passes out deep to Adrian Smith. 5 minutes here in the first half. The Billikens 22-21. Hatton on the right side. Tries to get his back block. Can't. Jump shot. No good. Tapped up by Johnson. No good. Cox and Burnett tie up on the rebound. Burnett at 6'5" will have 1 inch for St. Louis on the Kentucky free throw line. 4 minutes and 54 seconds in the first half as they stand in to jump. Here's the toss. The tap by Burnett knocked away by Krigler through the hands of Cox to Daly to Memlitz to Daly on a 3-2 fast break to Memlitz. He takes the shot from 10 feet. It's no good. Nice rebound by Phil Johnson. Taken away from him by Daly. Gives it over to Ferry. Wide open, doesn't shoot. Outside jump shot, no good by Memlitz. Lays it in. That's 5 field goals by Memlitz. And St. Louis goes on top by 3 points. 24-21. Hatton in front court. Has Johnson out on a high pivot at the free throw line. Pulls up on his dribble, and everybody lays him. He shoots it to Cox at the free throw line. Spins into the 3-second zone. Can't shoot. Gives it out to Hatton to Adrian Smith. From 25 feet. Set shot good. Adrian Smith with his 3rd field goal pulls Kentucky back within 1 point at 24-23. Jim Daly looking toward the St. Louis bench as he moves into front court for the Billikens. Bounce pass to Burnett, keeping it deep, moving it to the right, back to Daly, brings it down the side to the corner against Adrian Smith, out to Ferry, to Memlitz on the pivot. 1 bounce dribble and out to Burnett from the right, shot, no good. Johnson rebounds for Kentucky. Memlitz knocks it down. Johnson holds on. Over to Adrian Smith as Kentucky swings back to the attack, trailing by 1 point. Hatton from the left side, 10-footer, no good. Over the rim, Johnson slaps down, fight for the ball. Krigler lays it in. John Krigler with his 2nd field goal, and Kentucky is on top for the 2nd time in the game by 1 point, 25-24, with 3.5 minutes to go. We're in the first half here at St. Louis. Burnett in front court to Memlitz on the left side. High pass to Ferry on the pivot against Johnson. Swooping hook shot is in and out. Taken off by Johnny Cox. Flips it over to Vernon Hatton in front court to Krigler. Moves in, can't shoot, over to Cox to the right side. Moves to the corner, jump shot, good. Johnny Cox swishes the ropes with his 4th field goal. And Kentucky has its longest lead of the game at 27-24. Burnett and Daly walking up the back court for the Billikens now. We got 3 minutes in the first half. Daly fakes and then gives to Memlitz on the left side against Krigler. He moves out, comes back, gives to Daly. Daly turns, shoots one to the pivot. That knocked out by Johnson, picked up by Memlitz, falls away from Krigler and misses. Tapped up by Ferry, no good. Knocked down and taken by Johnny Cox of Kentucky. Passes over to John Krigler. Gets away from Memlitz. Whips a high one in front court to Johnson. He's open from 5 feet, and he missed it with a whistle on the play. Foul on Jim Daly of St. Louis. 2nd foul on Daly, and the 6th against the Billikens. 2 shots to Phil Johnson. The only Wildcat that's been in the ball game who has not scored. 2 minutes and 40 seconds here in the first half, with Kentucky holding their longest lead of the game. 27-24. St. Louis has had 2 6-point leads. Johnson hits with the first free throw. As the scorer's horn sounds, to wave Steve Redshaw in for Memlitz. First time Memlitz has been out. Redshaw, 19-year-old junior from Winchester, Illinois. 6'5", weighs 165. Redshaw. Johnson with his 2nd free throw for Kentucky. Eyes and shoots way short, missed everything, and St. Louis gets it off the side of the backcourt. Kentucky 28, St. Louis 24. Jim Daly moving it up the backcourt for the Billikens now. Over the midcourt stripe to Burnett. Burnett down the left side to Redshaw. Top rim of the circle to Daly. Gets away from Smith. Johnson picks him up. He gives a bad pass at Burnett. Runs down in the deep right corner. Out to Daly. He sets from 25 feet. It's no good. Off with it's Ferry, but it's knocked away by Cox. Burkle picks it up to the outside. Hooks one out to Redshaw. Bounce pass that Johnson knocks down. Burnett picks it up to the outside. Shoots it over to Burkle. Shoots good. 15 feet to the left. George Burkle with his 2nd field goal. Cuts Kentucky's lead to 2 points with 2 minutes in the first half. Adrian Smith in front court now. Looks at Phil Johnson on the pivot. Gives him a bounce pass. Breaks for the basket against Ferry. Takes a swooping hook. Short. Rebounding Redshaw of St. Louis. Up the way to Daly. Goes up in the front court. Slips and holds on. Passes one under the basket. Johnson knocked it away again. Who's playing a fine defensive game in that pivot. Here's Daly from the right corner. Missing. Ferry tries to tap. No good. Gets the rebound outside to Redshaw. Redshaw to Burnett. Into the pivot he goes, and Johnson again takes it away from Ferry. Moves up and charges into Daly, though, knocking him down, and it's the first foul on Phil Johnson. Kentucky had a 3-on-1 fast break. Johnson did not pass quickly enough and ran right over the top of Daly of St. Louis, who will go to the free throw line. Now off the Billiken bench, another substitution. McCaffrey. Pete McCaffrey from Kansas City, Missouri, comes into the St. Louis lineup, an 18-year-old sophomore, 6'6", weighs 195. Daly on the free throw line for one shot, misses again, and Johnson rebounds. Passes it up to Vernon Hatton. He moves quickly into front court, down the right side to Krigler from the right corner. He hit it. John Krigler, with his third field goal, and Kentucky has its lead of 4 points back for the second time. 30-26. In front court, Jim Daly of St. Louis. Over to Burnett to the right from 20 feet. It's no good. Bounces high and off the back of the board where Johnson pulls it in for Kentucky. Gives to Johnny Cox as the Cats continue to run. Cox down the middle against Burnett. Lays it in, driving. Beautiful play by Johnny Cox for his 5th field goal as he matches those by Memlitz. And Kentucky now has a 6-point lead with 53 seconds to play in the first half. Each team has had a 6-point lead. St. Louis, 2 of them. Burnett in front court to Burkle down the right side at the baseline. Fouled by Johnny Cox. Second foul on Cox. On the St. Louis free throw line, George Burkle for the first time. 44 seconds to play. Kentucky 32, St. Louis 26. As Burkle is in for one shot. Rogers waits to get in for the Billikens, and Burkle's free throw no good. Johnson rebounds for Kentucky, hands it over to Vernon Hatton with 40 seconds to play. Up to Adrian Smith to Hatton in front court. Hatton holding it up now. Johnson has come all the way to the top of the circle. Johnny Cox is actually in a double pivot with Krigler off on the right side, and 30 seconds now in the first half. Kentucky leading by 6 points. They may want to set on it for just one shot. Hatton over to Adrian Smith. He comes to the left side. Turns, comes back out deep with it. Calls Hatton to him with 20 seconds to go. Keeps it bouncing. Moves down the right side against Daly. Back out to Hatton. Hatton holds it out of play now. Only 10 seconds to go. Hatton gives a high one to Johnson at the free throw line. Back to Hatton from the free throw line. He misses. Comes off the board, and Johnson takes it away from Burkle and shoots high, and no good as the first half ends. So at the end of the first half, Kentucky gets away with a 6-point lead. It is Kentucky 32, St. Louis 26. And the Wildcats, after being down by 6 points, outscored the Billikens by 12 on the way to the first half. Here's the individual scoring for Kentucky. Johnny Cox is on top of the ladder with 11 points. That is better than his average for the season per game. 5 field goals and a free throw. Next is Adrian Smith with 8 points on 3 field goals and 2 free throws. 6 points for John Krigler on 3 field goals. 5 points for Vernon Hatton on 2 field goals and a free throw. 1 point for Ed Beck on a free throw. 1 point for Phil Johnson. He's hit 1 out of 2 on the free throw line, as 6 Wildcats have played and 6 have scored at least 1 point. For St. Louis, Jack Memlitz matches the 11 points for Johnny Cox with 5 field goals and a free throw and 11 of his own. The other St. Louis scoring, Bob Ferry, has picked up 6 points on 2 field goals and 2 for 4 at the free throw line. Then we have 4 points for George Burkle on a pair of field goals. He's missed a free throw. We have 3 points for Cal Burnett, field goal, and 1 for 2 at the free throw line. Jim Daly, 2 points on a field goal, and he's missed both free throw tries. Rich Rogers, who started at a guard, did not score. Steve Redshaw was in the Billiken lineup, as was Pete McCaffrey, and neither of them scored a point. As here at halftime, it's 32-26, Kentucky leading. This ball game has been tied up only twice in the first half, at 8-8 and 9-9. So that's the picture of things here in St. Louis at halftime. Kentucky 32, St. Louis 26. Goes to Adrian Smith of Kentucky. Moves in front court, holds up, gives over to Vernon Hatton. He moves back over the midcourt stripe, gives to Smith. Moves in, goes right down the middle, and has his shot blocked. A foul is called against St. Louis. Bob Ferry drawing his second personal foul of the game. And the first foul of the second half comes only 9 seconds into the game. 2 shots to Adrian Smith. Adrian Smith ready with his first try. He pumps it good. Kentucky has the first 7-point lead of the game for either team. As Smith stands in for his second shot, it's in play and good. So the score is Kentucky 34, St. Louis 26. Back in front court, Rich Rogers of St. Louis. Over to Cal Burnett. Back to Rogers. Down the right side to Burkle. Back to Rogers out front to Burnett. To Memlitz, top of the circle. Moves to the left, gets a screen. Jump shot, no good to the right. Taking it off, Johnny Cox high in the air to trigger a 4-on-2 Kentucky fast break. Adrian Smith gets behind it all. Drives, lays it up, and almost goes up into the stand. Adrian Smith with his fourth field goal puts Kentucky on top by 10 points, 36-26. 4 quick points by Smith in this half. Burnett of St. Louis gives in to the free throw line to Ferry. Back to Rich Rogers from 10 feet. Jump shot, no good. Fight for the rebound. It's on the floor. Johnson goes for it. Krigler goes for it. Ferry of St. Louis. Burkle all go for it, and we'll have a jump. Ferry at 6'8" will jump at the St. Louis free throw line against John Krigler, giving the Billikens 5 inches of height advantage. We've played 51 seconds of the second half. Kentucky's Adrian Smith picked up 4 points. Here's the tap, goes to Burkle, out to Burnett. Burnett down the left side to Memlitz, fakes, drives on Johnson, who blocks the shot from the rear. Ferris takes it off and hooks, no good. Memlitz rebounds at the free throw line. He's open, shot good. Jack Memlitz tops the field goal shooting with his 6th one. Kentucky 36, St. Louis 28. Adrian Smith in front court, a bounce pass to Johnson off the right side of the pivot, under the basket to Hatton against Cal Burnett, and a foul on the play against Burnett of St. Louis is his first one of the ball game. That's the second foul of the second half, both against St. Louis. Vernon Hatton is on the Kentucky free throw line. Krigler goes back into a safety with Smith as Hatton's two-handed free throw is good. Hit the front of the rim, dropped over into the nets for a 37-28 Kentucky lead. Rich Rogers to Cal Burnett, who moves it up into front court for the Billikens. Down the right side with a pass to Burkle, out to Rogers, to the top rim of the circle to Ferry. Back to Cal Burnett, wide open, missed the shot. Johnny Cox rebounds it. Kentucky's got a 5-on-2 fast break. From the free throw line, Cox shoots, no good. Johnson taps, no good. And a jump ball as it comes off the boards. Burkle and Johnson will jump, giving St. Louis 2 inches height advantage at the Kentucky free throw line. Kentucky leading by 9 points after 1 minute and 37 seconds of the second half here at Kiel Auditorium in St. Louis. Here's the tap, knocked away by Cox, but taken by Burnett of St. Louis. Moves up the backcourt, over the center line. Passes right side to Rich Rogers. A high one in the pivot, knocked up in the air by Hatton, slapped down out of bounds, goes to St. Louis, off the knee of John Krigler. As Bob Ferry, in saving, slammed it back in bounds on a blind save off the knee of Krigler. Ferry out of bounds, gives to Memlitz in the right corner, breaks out against Krigler, and a shot short, tapped beautifully up by Ferry, no good. Now Burkle gets the shot blocked by John Krigler, and a foul called on Krigler. It is the 3rd foul on John Krigler, the first on Kentucky in this half of play. We've played 2 minutes, 4 seconds of this second half. Kentucky with a 9-point edge. 2 shots have been awarded George Burkle. George Burkle sights, left-hander. He shoots and misses. Now the ball is in play as Burkle goes in for the second shot. He sights, getting it just right on the left hand. Shoves it up. Good. First one in 3 that Burkle has hit. Kentucky 37, St. Louis 29. Vernon Hatton of Kentucky in front court. Holding it out of play straight and deep. Yells to Adrian Smith, passes to him, starts down the left side and backs away. Looks at Johnson playing a high pivot, gives over to Hatton. Down the right to Johnny Cox. Both guards break through. Hatton gets it from 10 feet. The shot hits the top of the backboard. Is picked up by John Krigler under the basket, who stuffs it up, no good. Fight for the ball coming to the outside. Phil Johnson gets it for Kentucky. Over to Adrian Smith. Breaks to the right, gives to Krigler. Out of the left corner, shoots, no good. Ball is knocked down, and it is out of bounds with a jump call. 17 minutes and 23 seconds to play. Adrian Smith will jump with Ferry, giving St. Louis 8 inches height advantage in backcourt. Smith went for it, and Phil Johnson got the tap for Kentucky. Outside to Odie Smith. Left side to Hatton, breaks in on Cal Burnett and lays it up short. No good. Kentucky getting good shots, unable to hit here in the early going of the second half, but still maintaining a lead of 8 points. Front court, Rich Rogers passes over to Memlitz. Fakes, drives in on Krigler. Tries to shoot, and a foul is called on Krigler. That's his 4th one. So we have had 2 personal fouls against each team in the second half. Jack Memlitz goes to the St. Louis free throw line. We played 2 minutes, 56 seconds. Krigler playing now with 4 personals. Shots good. Kentucky 37, St. Louis 30, as Adrian Smith brings it back into front court. Down the left side to Johnny Cox. Breaks up to the baseline, turns his back. 2 men go for him, and he has it knocked up into the air, but Hatton gets it out to Adrian Smith as Ed Beck waits to get back into the game. Over to Adrian Smith to Cox, knocked away, but a foul against St. Louis, George Burkle, his second foul of the game, and that's the 3rd one on the Billikens in this half. Now, John Krigler leaves the Kentucky lineup as Ed Beck comes in. Beck has 3 personals. Krigler leaving the game with his 4th one. Johnny Cox is on the free throw line for 1 try. Kentucky had a 10-point lead at 36-26. St. Louis has outscored them 4-1. Cox missed the free throw. And the rebound taken off by Ferry of St. Louis. Over to Burnett, up to Memlitz, moving in front court against Phil Johnson and Johnny Cox. Passes to Ferry, dropped it, picked up by Memlitz, moves in to the left side, gives off to Burnett, and a 10-foot jump shot short, hits off the rim to Memlitz. Comes out with it, passes to Burkle from the top of the circle. He misses with a pushing foul called against St. Louis. Well, it's a double foul being called against St. Louis Bob Ferry. It's his 3rd one. Now, wait a minute. What has been called? Pete McCaffrey started into the St. Louis lineup. Now is being waved out as Bob Ferry leaves the lineup. Well, Beck will move in to jump with Burkle. It's a mystery to us what's been called. Here's the tap, goes to Johnny Cox, just in Kentucky's front court. Moves down the right side, passes to Hatton. Top of the circle, shot, no good. Ed Beck knocks it down, and then Pete McCaffrey knocks it out of bounds for St. Louis. McCaffrey played in the first half but didn't score. Kentucky's shooting has been way off here in the early going of the second half. They've been getting good shots, but unable to get one to drop now, as they did through a stretch of the first half. Johnson in the pivot, spins left, hooks back and good. Beautiful play by Phil Johnson for his first field goal, and Kentucky leads 39-30. Here's Rich Rogers racing back into St. Louis front court down the right side. Free throw line deep, passing out deep to Burkle. Whips one back in there, intended in the pivot, picked up by Burnett as it's knocked out by Beck. Now taken away by Bernard Hatton. He starts in the front court, pulls up deep, goes to Adrian Smith, 10 feet to the left. He missed it. Tapped up by Beck, by Johnson, no good. And now Rogers takes it off for St. Louis. Rogers wheeling back quickly into front court down the left side. Pivots and walks with it, and it's out of bounds to Kentucky. Adrian Smith passes to Phil Johnson, wide open. He got it. Phil Johnson with his 2nd straight field goal. Kentucky leads by 11 points for the first time. And it is timeout St. Louis. Their 2nd timeout of the game. Kentucky 41, St. Louis 30. And we've got 15 minutes and 34 seconds here at Kiel Auditorium in St. Louis. Well, here in the second half, we've seen Phil Johnson pick up 4 points and Adrian Smith pick up 4 points. Vernon Hatton has picked up 1. The Billikens have picked up 1 field goal by Memlitz and 2 free throws. 1 by Memlitz, 1 by Burkle, as Kentucky has outscored St. Louis by 9-4 so far here in the second half. Kentucky had a 32-26 halftime lead. Let us remind you about Monday night. We'll be with you from Dallas, Texas, where Kentucky plays SMU, with broadcast time over these same stations at 8:45 Eastern Standard Time. The Warding Hornstown starting play now with 15 minutes and 34 seconds in the ball game. St. Louis is in possession. They have it at the baseline and backcourt. No change in either lineup. Now check us here. We're getting a change for St. Louis as Jim Daly replaces Rich Rogers at a guard. McCaffrey, Ferry, and Memlitz remain in the lineup with Cal Burnett. And now we go back to play with Burnett and Daly moving up the backcourt, talking with each other. It's Burnett stepping over the midcourt stripe. Down the right side to Burkle, who breaks away from Cox, goes under the basket, hooks it back, no good. Johnny Cox gets the rebound, fakes Burkle to clear it out of there. Pulls up in backcourt as Memlitz made a run at him. Now moves on over the center court line. Passes to Smith. Starts to the left, comes back to the right, gives to Hatton. Hatton a bounce pass to Beck on the left. Back a one-bounce dribble and out to Hatton. Breaks to the right. Pulls up off a screen from Johnson. He misses. Foul against Ed Beck of Kentucky, who tried to come in behind McCaffrey for the rebound. That is 4 fouls on Ed Beck. And it is 3 fouls against each team in the second half. Off the Kentucky bench now, Don Mills is going to have the pressure put on him. The 18-year-old sophomore from Berea is replacing Ed Beck, who has fouled out of the game. Beck's 5th personal foul. Beck fouls out with 15 minutes and 4 seconds to play, and he has 1 point on a first-half free throw. Don Mills being baptized under heavy fire here in St. Louis tonight, as the Billikens' Pete McCaffrey goes to the free throw line for the first time with 1 shot coming on the backcourt foul off the defensive board. The free throw's good. And Kentucky's lead is cut back to 10 points. Vernon Hatton gets the ball in from Don Mills. In front court to Adrian Smith on the 15 feet. Jump shot, no good, rolls off. Tapped by Cox, no good. Tapped by Mills, no good. Johnny Cox rebounds and goes to shoot, no good. Phil Johnson lays it in. Phil Johnson with his 3rd field goal puts Kentucky on top for the first time by 12 points at 43-31. St. Louis back to the attack. Memlitz on the left side. Breaks, gives back to Daly on the left side. He breaks in on Adrian Smith and walks with the ball, and it's out of bounds to Kentucky down in backcourt. Adrian Smith passes in underhand to Vernon Hatton, who moves up into front court for the Wildcats. Passes to Smith to the right. Into the double pivot to Johnny Cox. He turns, flips off to Vernon Hatton. Breaks to the baseline, cut off by Memlitz. He turns and lays it good. Beautiful play by Vernon Hatton for his 3rd field goal of the night. Kentucky leads 45-31. Jim Daly to Burnett, moving in front court for the Billikens. Down the right side to Burkle. Fakes Cox, drives into the right corner. Jump shot, off of the rim, no good. Johnny Cox high to get the rebound. The Cats are on the run. Over to Vernon Hatton from 5 feet. A beautiful fake, and he lays it in. Vernon Hatton triggers 2 quick field goals back-to-back, and the Cats lead 47-31. Kentucky by 16 points. Their biggest lead of the game. Up into front court now. Burnett of the Billikens gives over to Burkle to Memlitz against Adrian Smith. A 15-foot jump shot, no good, off the rim to Phil Johnson. He makes a nice save as Memlitz goes forward and misses. Passes over to Vernon Hatton with 13 and a half minutes to play. Long way to go yet, and a tremendous ball game here in St. Louis. Hatton over to Adrian Smith now. Down the right side of a double pivot to Cox, and a swooping hook's no good. Phil Johnson taps, rolls off the left side, no good to Burkle of St. Louis. Tries to get out of there and makes it with a bounce pass to Memlitz. Whips over to McCaffrey, to Daly in front court, who takes a 15-foot jump shot, no good. Off of the rim to Johnny Cox of Kentucky. Kentucky goes 3-2 down the court with Johnny Cox down the middle. Jump ball is called as Cox tried to get away a shot. Into the St. Louis lineup, we have Steve Redshaw, who played briefly in the first half without scoring, and Burkle comes out with 13 minutes and 5 seconds to play. Johnny Cox of Kentucky against Daly. It gives Kentucky 6 inches height advantage on their own free throw line as Bob Ferry comes back in to place Pete McCaffrey. The Billikens getting 2 inches height advantage back on that substitution. Here's the toss, the tap by Cox to Hatton. Goes into the free throw line. 3 men go for him. He gives out to Smith down the left to Cox. Fakes, breaks under the basket, pulls up, comes out with a hook, and rolls off, no good. Johnson taps, no good. Don Mills puts it up. Beautiful play by Mills, who lays it in over his head backwards. The goal counts and a St. Louis foul. It looks like Jack Memlitz has been tagged for the 5th St. Louis foul. 5 personal fouls against St. Louis. It's the second one on Memlitz. Don Mills has just picked up his first field goal on a beautiful under-the-basket play. With his back to the basket, he hooked it back and over his head in the end. Missed the free throw. Johnson knocks it down and picks it up, though, for Kentucky. Cats leading by 18 points. Hatton cuts down the middle, hooks it up, no good. Tapped down, the ball's picked up by St. Louis. Daly gets a long leading pass in front court to the left to Memlitz. Don Mills knocks it down, breaks up the fast break, goes to the floor, fight for the ball, it's out of bounds, and we got a jump. Don Mills getting away to a good start here as a sophomore under tremendous pressure. 12 minutes and 35 seconds to play. Kentucky 49, St. Louis 31. For the Billikens, Bob Ferry at 6'8", has 1 inch height advantage on the Billiken free throw line. Tapped high in the air. Beautiful play by Smith, who got it away from Memlitz. The man for whom it was tapped. Smith in front court now, pulls up, passes to Hatton. Weaves, kicks back to Smith. Smith over to Hatton. Kentucky has the floor unbalanced. Now Don Mills playing a double pivot to the left side as Hatton backs away from Burnett. Gives a high pass to Don Mills on the pivot out to Johnny Cox. Free throw line jump shot to the left. No good. Hits down. Knocked it almost out of bounds before it was knocked in by Daly to Memlitz. And in front court, jump shot by Redshaw is good. Steve Redshaw, with his first field goal, breaks the St. Louis drought and cuts the Kentucky lead to 16 points with 12 minutes to play. 49-33 is Hatton in front court for the Wildcats. Sets it up. Passes into Don Mills at the top of the circle. Mills turns. Foul is called against St. Louis. Goes against Jim Daly, his third personal. That's the sixth foul on the Billikens. Stops the clock with 11 minutes and 48 seconds to play, and Don Mills goes to the Kentucky free throw line. Mills had one try and missed here in this half. Don Mills pumps it up. Good. Went in, came out, and dropped back into the center of the nets. It's 50-33. Kentucky by 17 points. Hatton picking up in backcourt. St. Louis pulls Redshaw in to get the ball and move up in front court against Cox. Feeds into Ferry, and a high hook shot, no good. Johnson gets off a nice rebound. It's knocked away. Memlitz picks it up and lays it in for St. Louis. 7 field goals for Jack Memlitz. And St. Louis pulls within 15 points at 50-35. Vernon Hatton to Adrian Smith now. He moves up into front court. Cuts down the left side to the corner. Passes out to Don Mills. Hands it back to Smitty. He sets, breaks out, goes all the way and lays it in. Adrian Smith breaking down the middle for his 5th field goal and 14th point. Kentucky 52, St. Louis 35. Daly in front court. Gives down the left side to Redshaw. Bounce pass goes to Ferry on the pivot against Don Mills. Hooks it up. It's no good. Fight for the ball coming off the boards. Johnson taps it down. Memlitz takes it high. Jump shot, no good. Knocked down and out of bounds. And a pushing foul is called against St. Louis. George Burkle, his 3rd foul. And the bonus rule is in effect. We've got 11 minutes to play. Memlitz comes out of the St. Louis lineup. Being waved into action, Pete McCaffrey. Now Bob Ferry is going out of the lineup. So the St. Louis lineup is Jim Daly, Redshaw, McCaffrey, Burkle, and Burnett. We line up around the Kentucky free throw line to make sure we've got defensive assignments squared away. And now Johnny Cox stands in for 1 free throw with the bonus rule in effect. Oddly enough, neither team has had a bonus shot in this game. Cox shooting 1-1 for Kentucky. 11 minutes to play as Cox 2-hand free throws good. He's got a bonus shot coming. Cox started into defensive position, but is brought back in as Kentucky has an 18-point lead. Johnny Cox, 6'4" forward, takes the bonus shot, no good. St. Louis gets the rebound as Burkle takes it off, gives over to Daly, moving up to front court against Adrian Smith. Outside to Redstone. McCaffrey, jump shot, good. Pete McCaffrey with his first field goal cuts Kentucky's lead to 53-37. Hatton in front court breaks to the right side against Daly. Free throw line deep, passes out to Adrian Smith. Smith moves to the left with Cox coming off on the side. Burnett drops it down, but Smith picks it up, starts down the left side, backs away, passes over to Hatton. Down to the double pivot to Don Mills. Looks at Smith under the basket. Takes a 1-bounce dribble. Whips it out to Hatton. Top rim of the circle. Jump shot is good. And Hatton's fouled by Daly after the shot. It's the 4th foul on Daly. Bonus rule is in effect as Hatton's field goal makes it 18 points again. Hatton has 5 field goals. He's on the line for 1 free throw as Daly comes out of the St. Louis lineup to make way for Rich Rogers. Kentucky 55, St. Louis 37. Vern Hatton up for 1 shot. Hatton a 2-hand free throw from between the knees. Misses. Ferry has it knocked away, but McCaffrey picks it up as Don Mills batted it away. Up to Rogers. In front court to Redshaw from 25 feet. He missed it off the rim. Glanced off and is taken out to the outside by McCaffrey. Moves into the left and a high jump shot. Good. Pete McCaffrey with his 2nd straight field goal. Cuts the Kentucky lead down to 55-39. Adrian Smith in front court. Passes over to Vernon Hatton as St. Louis. Gets tough defensively out front now. Hatton passes to Mills in the double pivot. Over to Cox. Moves down the left side. 10-foot jump shot. Good. By Johnny Cox for his first field goal in this half. His 6th of the ball game. Kentucky leading by 18 points now. 57-39 with 9 minutes and 45 seconds to play. Burnett of St. Louis arches one to the right to McCaffrey. Another jump shot. This one's no good, though. Tapped in beautifully by Burnett. Burnett's second field goal, 57-41. Kentucky with a 16-point edge. Hatton in front court calls Adrian Smith in close quarters. Smith moves to the right side off the double pivot, goes to the right corner, pulls up, passes out to Vernon Hatton, looks at Don Mills, and moves to the left side with Johnny Cox, gives him a bounce pass. Cox to Hatton, moves in, cuts, drives, lays it up. No good. Burnett has it knocked away by Cox out of bounds. St. Louis takes over. Rogers to Cal Burnett, who moves up in the front court against Adrian Smith, drives in, and a foul on the play. It is against Adrian Smith of Kentucky, his second personal foul. Stops the clock with 9 minutes and 5 seconds to play as Memlitz comes in to replace Redshaw for St. Louis. Cal Burnett is on the free throw line. He's 1 for 2. St. Louis is the 5th straight unbeaten team Kentucky has played. Kentucky 57, St. Louis 41 here at Kiel Auditorium in St. Louis. Now Burnett at the Billikens free throw line for one try. He's a right-hander, cocks the left foot slightly back and arches it up good. That, by the way, was the 5th foul on Kentucky. Their lead now is 15 points as Adrian Smith moves it back into front court. Burnett goes for him. Smith cuts to the left, dancing but staying deep. Burnett knocks it down, but Smith retrieves, still dribbling. Whips one to Johnny Cox on the left side. Burnett stabs for it, misses, out to Phil Johnson. He breaks to the right, pulls up, passes out to Smith. Smith moves in, cuts, breaks right, 20-foot jump shot, no good. Tapped up, no good by Johnson, by Mills, by Cox, by Mills, no good. And taken off by McCaffrey. A steal by Hatton, who lays it in driving. Beautiful play by Vernon Hatton for his 6th field goal. Kentucky leads 59-42. 17-point edge for the Wildcats with 8.5 minutes to go. Break for the basket by Burkle. Jump shot over Cox. It's good. George Burkle with his first field goal of the half, his 3rd of the game. Cuts Kentucky's lead back to 15 points. Vernon Hatton moving up the back court, still in back court, now over the line, yelling to Adrian Smith, gives to Johnson, back to Hatton, moving to the right against Memlitz. Pulls up, double team, passes back to Johnson, out to Adrian Smith. He sets from 25 feet, in and out. Taking it off, McCaffrey of St. Louis. Gives over to Burkle, back to Memlitz. From the free throw line, he pumps under there. Rogers wide open, missed the shot. Mills rebounds for Kentucky. Gives to Adrian Smith, driving in front court. And a foul is called against St. Louis. Rich Rogers, his 2nd one of the ball game. Adrian Smith moves into the Kentucky free throw line. 7 minutes and 48 seconds to play as Jim Daly comes off the Billiken bench. He checks in. He's committed 4 personals. Kentucky's Ed Beck fouled out with 15 minutes, 4 seconds to go. Rogers of St. Louis leaves the game. As Adrian Smith of Kentucky is on the line for 1 shot, it's good, and the bonus free throw comes his way. Adrian Smith with 15 points, which is exactly his average per game. Bonus shot, no good, comes out of there, and a jump ball is called in the rebound as Don Mills ties up with McCaffrey. And Mills, the Berea sophomore, will have 1-inch height advantage for the Wildcats in the Kentucky free throw line. Kentucky 60, St. Louis 44. 7 minutes and 46 seconds to play. Mills and McCaffrey stand in. Mills taps behind him over the head of Adrian Smith, and Daly's got a dead trip shot, good. Daly with his 2nd field goal cuts the Kentucky lead down to 60-46. Back in front court now. Vernon Hatton of Kentucky gives a pass to Don Mills on the double pivot. He breaks to the left in a pushing foul against St. Louis. Drawing the personal foul, McCaffrey, his 1st one. And while we wait for the shot, let's take 10 seconds for station identification. This is the Standard Oil Sports Network.
WVLK, Lexington, Kentucky. It's exactly 11 o'clock.
Cal Burnett has just come out of the St. Louis lineup for the first time, and Rich Rogers is in to replace him as UK's Don Mills is on the line. 1 shot coming with a bonus rule in effect. He shoots, no good. Johnson taps high, no good. Cox knocks it out of bounds, and St. Louis gets it. Kentucky with a 14-point lead and 7.5 minutes to play. 60-46 the score as Daly of St. Louis in front court gives to McCaffrey. Jump shot, no good from the top of the circle. Memlitz rebounds, gives over to Rogers, whips out, and Burkle, 15-footer, no good. Rebounding, Johnny Cox. Burkle goes for him. Cox whips it over to Adrian Smith, gets away from Daly. Drives in front court down the left side. Passes out to Vernon Hatton. Weaves, breaks to the right, and a foul is called. Nope, walking against Vernon Hatton. St. Louis off the right side of the back court with 7 minutes to play. Jim Daly moves it over the midcourt stripe. Down the left side to Memlitz. Comes out against Phil Johnson. Passes one at Mills. Knocks down. Picked up. Jump shot good by Rich Rogers of St. Louis. And it is his first field goal of the game. Timeout, Kentucky. Their second timeout of the ball game with 6 minutes and 40 seconds to play. Each team has called 2 times out. Kentucky's 18-point lead has been whittled down to 12 by the Billikens as the score stands Kentucky 60, St. Louis 48. Well, it's been a great ball game here at Kiel Auditorium. The Wildcats were running hard and fast and hitting well in the early going to the midpoint of this half of play. And the Cats built up that 18-point lead and held on to it until just now when St. Louis has been able to trim it down. As we go back to play, Kentucky will be in possession. In this half of play, Kentucky is being led by Vernon Hatton, who has 9 points and 14 for the ball game. Don Mills, 3 points in this half. Adrian Smith has picked up 7 and a total of 15. Johnny Cox in this half has 3 points, a total of 14. Phil Johnson has 6 points in this half, a total of 7. He got 1 free throw in the first half. Tomorrow we move over to Dallas, Texas. And Monday night, over these same Standard Oil stations, we'll be broadcasting Kentucky and SMU. Adrian Smith will put the ball in play as Kentucky is not making a change in the lineup. Ed Beck has fouled out. Phil Johnson playing in place of John Krigler, who's on the bench with 4 personals as we go back to play. Hatton gets the pass in front court to Smith, to Johnson on a high pivot. Over to Johnny Cox, top of the circle, most to the right side, gives to Adrian Smith. Smith brings it back out deep, most to the left against Daly. Down near the left corner, bounce pass out deep to Vernon Hatton, who drops it, picks it up, bouncing. Whips into Don Mills on the pivot. He turns, gives back to Hatton under the basket, can't shoot, comes out, knocked down by Johnny Cox, who picks it up, takes it back out deep. Passes over to Adrian Smith. Fakes a high one, then pivot to Johnson as Kentucky's in a double pivot. Now it goes over to Hatton to Johnson on the double pivot. He hands to Hatton from the free throw line. It's good. Vernon Hatton with his 7th field goal, 5 of them in this half, puts Kentucky on top with 6 minutes to go by 14 points. Daly of St. Louis in front court to Memlitz on the left side. Breaks down to the baseline, spins away and gives over to McCaffrey. 15-foot jump shot's no good. Off the rim with it. It's knocked down on the floor. Memlitz picks it up wide open and missed the shot. Don Mills rebounds for Kentucky. Out to Johnny Cox, who moves it in front court, pulls up. Calls Vernon Hatton in close, can't give it to him. Looks for somebody open, gives to Adrian Smith. St. Louis picking up tight now defensively. They got to go for the ball as they're down by 14 points. Adrian Smith deep, takes it to the right side, calls Hatton in close to it and gives to him. Hatton holds it away out of play with 5.5 minutes to go. Hatton takes it and walks with it, and it's out of bounds to St. Louis down in backcourt. Pass into Rich Rogers, breaking down the left side, free throw line deep. Out to Daly, then to Memlitz at the top of the circle. 20-foot jump shot by Memlitz is no good. Tapped up, no good by Burkle. Johnny Cox rebounds for Kentucky. Moves up into front court, cuts to the free throw line, pulls up. 4 men go for him. He gives to Mills. 20-footer by Mills, no good. Hatton taps, no good. Fight for the ball and a jump with 4 minutes and 54 seconds to play. Kentucky 62, St. Louis 48. Johnny Cox at 6'4". Jumping against Burkle at 6'8", giving the Billikens 4 inches height advantage on the Kentucky free throw line. Here's the toss and the tap to the Billikens. Pete McCaffrey. Over to Daly, moving into front court. Cuts in, goes, gives, free throw line jump shot, but McCaffrey's no good short. Johnson rebounds for Kentucky. Comes rolling out of there with it into front court. Breaks down the left side. Pulls up, has it taken away from him by Burkle. Out to Memlitz. Knocked down by Hatton, but picked up by Burkle. Brings it back into front court for the Billikens. Cox picks him up. Free throw line deep as he gives to Memlitz. Screens. The shot, good. Memlitz with his 8th field goal to take the lead in that department now and cuts Kentucky's lead back to 12 points with 4 minutes and 20 seconds to play. 62-50 the score. The Billikens on the march now. Johnson at the pivot gives to Cox. 25-foot jump shot, no good. Short. Billikens rebound. They got it 3-on-1 against Adrian Smith. Daly to Burkle, who hooks good. 4 field goals for George Burkle. And Kentucky is in trouble now. They take a timeout with 4 minutes to play. St. Louis picking up points here now against the Wildcats. Have 4 minutes to go, and it is 62 to 52 in favor of the Wildcats, as they have run hard and often in this second half of play. But now they begin to show some signs of tiring, as there has been just 2 changes in this second half. John Krigler is still available for duty. However, Ed Beck is fouled out of the game, and it looks like right now that Coach Adolph Rupp is going to bring Krigler back in the lineup. He will be playing with 4 personal fouls as Don Mills is being lifted. Tremendous cheer going up from the St. Louis student section here on this near side of Kiel Auditorium. It is Kentucky's ball when we go back to play under the St. Louis basket. St. Louis has not yet gone into a full court press, but they have been very tough out front defensively. St. Louis breaks huddle. John Krigler moving into the Kentucky lineup as we have Adrian Smith and Vernon Hatton at the guards. Dale Johnson, Johnny Cox, and John Krigler the deep men. There are 4 minutes to play. Kentucky 62, St. Louis 52, and here we go. Hatton gets it over to Adrian Smith, and they trot up the backcourt. Adrian Smith breaks into a run now, across the line, down the right side to Johnny Cox, outside to Smith, cuts, goes down the middle from 10 feet. He missed it, tapped up, Cox got it. Kentucky with a 12-point lead. Johnny Cox's 7th field goal, incidentally. Here's Memlitz of St. Louis, breaks to the left, and a whistle from the baseline. 3-second violation by Bob Ferry of St. Louis. Gives it out of bounds to Kentucky. 3.5 minutes to play as Adrian Smith moves in front court. Kentucky on top by 12 points. Into Johnny Cox, out to Smith, off the left side to Krigler, who takes a 25-footer. No good. Tapped by Krigler, outside to Adrian Smith. Moves to the right, and 10-footer is short. Knocked down, taken by St. Louis Jack Memlitz. Wheels a high one to Daly, who's got it one-on-one against Smith. Can't get his shot away. Gives over to Rogers, who lays it in. Rich Rogers with his 2nd field goal. And St. Louis is back within 10 points. 64-54 the score. Vernon Hatton of Kentucky moves into front court. Daly goes for it and misses. He gives to Cox, back to Hatton down the right side. Double team. Pivots himself into the open, hands to Cox in the right corner. Memlitz goes for him. Cox starts dribble, breaks for the basket, comes out of the other side, brings it back up the left side, deep, gives to Krigler. Now free throw line deep to the left. 2.5 minutes to play. Kentucky is out in front by 10 points. Here's Hatton from 20 feet. No good. Beautiful tap by Krigler, rolls around the rim, comes off, goes out of bounds. It is St. Louis ball. Memlitz got a 2-on-1 break going quickly against him, and Rogers lays it in. That's 3 field goals for Rich Rogers. Kentucky now has an 8-point lead, 64 to 56, 2 minutes, 15 seconds to play. Hatton coming up in front court with the ball now. The Billikens picking up the cheap basket on 2 quick fast breaks. Here's Hatton giving over to Adrian Smith. Goes down the left side. Comes back away from Rogers. Kentucky stalling now as we go into the last 2 minutes. Adrian Smith cuts, goes down the middle, and is fouled as he drives for the basket by Jack Memlitz. That's the 3rd foul on Memlitz. Stops the clock with 1:57 to go. Adrian Smith will go to the free throw line where he's hit 5 out of 6. Shooting 1 with a bonus rule in effect. Kentucky 64, St. Louis 56. However, the Billikens were down by 18 points. Adrian Smith shoots. Good. Bonus try coming as Kentucky stretches the lead back to 9 points. 1 minute and 57 seconds to play. Smith's bonus shot good. So it is Kentucky 66 to 56 as they get the 10 points back. Up in the front court is Jim Daly. Picked up by Adrian Smith. A charging foul on Daly of St. Louis as he runs into Adrian. Check us on that, Smith, for blocking. Adrian Smith has drawn his 3rd personal foul. Now 1:51 to go as Vernon Hatton moves down to get some words of advice from the Kentucky bench. That's the 6th personal foul against the Wildcats as Daly goes to the St. Louis free throw line for 1 shot. 1 minute and 51 seconds to play as the officials go into a huddle with the scores table. Kentucky 66, St. Louis 56. Jim Daly is at the free throw line now as Vernon Hatton moves out to say something to one of the officials. where Smith hit the floor. The towel is used to dry it off. Now any further fouling by Kentucky will put the bonus rule into effect as Daly is on the line for one try. He shoots. It's no good. Taken off by Burkle, who lays it up good. Burkle with his 5th field goal makes it 66-58. Adrian Smith in front court walks with it. And it's out of bounds to St. Louis with 1:40 to go. Pass to Memlitz breaking down the right side. He walks with it. And it's out of bounds to Kentucky. The ball goes out of bounds to St. Louis at midcourt. As we didn't get the signal what was called with St. Louis in the fast break. Here's Memlitz turning, and a jump shot by Memlitz is in and out. And back in. 9 field goals for Memlitz, and Kentucky leads by only 6 points. Hatton in backcourt drives out of there. He's fouled as he comes across midcourt by Jack Memlitz of St. Louis. For Memlitz, that's his 4th personal foul with 1:20 to go. And Vernon Hatton goes to the Kentucky free throw line. He's hit 2 for 3. Adrian Smith backs up deep right in the center court jump circle as Hatton stands in for a free throw. 66-60. Hatton shoots, no good, short. Rebounding Johnny Cox lays it in. Johnny Cox with his 8th field goal gives Kentucky a 68-60 lead, and a foul is called. The goal is good. It's against St. Louis. St. Louis had 2 men under there. Ferry and Burkle get the rebound. They hit each other and knocked it away, and Cox picked it up and laid it in. He's on the free throw line. It's on Burkle, who gets it, his 4th one, and Cox's free throw is good. So Johnny Cox picks up a 3-point trip, and Kentucky leads 69-60. 1:15 to play. Daly fades to the pivot, knocked down by Hatton, picked up by Adrian Smith. Double teamed, a 1-bounce dribble. Comes out of there, he's fouled by Jim Daly. For Jim Daly, according to our records, that's all of it. 5 personal fouls. He comes out with 1:09 to go. Ed Beck fouled out for Kentucky, now Daly for St. Louis. Daly comes out with 4 points on a field goal in each half, and he missed all 3 of his free throw attempts. Now a timeout is being taken by the Billikens. They're 3rd in the game. Well, this has been everything that a Kentucky-St. Louis game is always. That is thrilling and right down to the wire. 1:09 to go here at Kiel Auditorium, and the scoreboard reads Kentucky 69, St. Louis 60. Kentucky beat St. Louis by 6 points in the first half, and by 3 points to this spot in the second half. However, Kentucky has had an 18-point lead melt away when they broke away in the second half on 4 quick points by Adrian Smith and some beautiful reserve play by Phil Johnson and Don Mills. Well, as we go back to play now, Harry Lancaster, Kentucky assistant coach, marches up to the scorer's table to ask a question. It's directly across the floor from our position. Monday night, Kentucky plays SMU. We'll be out in Dallas, Texas to broadcast the game over these same stations. 8:45 Eastern Time, 7:45 Central Time for Kentucky SMU Monday night, Kentucky's last game away from home this month. Let's see if we can pick up a little bit of the Trumpeteers right in behind us. Now we're ready to go back to play as St. Louis breaks huddle last. And moving out to the Kentucky free throw line where we'll check on substitutions and defensive assignments. Ferry and Johnson move in as opposing centers, and everybody checks to make sure they're lined up properly as Adrian Smith now steps into the free throw line. Adrian Smith on the line. Shoots good. Kentucky has its 10-point lead, exactly what they had with 4 minutes to go when St. Louis made the serious run at them. Smith with a bonus shot, good. Kentucky leads by 71-60. In front court for the Billikens now. Just in the game is Tom Smith. Gives over to Rich Rogers, and from 15 feet he misses. Comes down off the shoulder of Johnny Cox to Burnett, who's back in, and he misses. Tapped up by Burkle, no good. Again by Burkle, no good. To the outside, Hatton's got it for Kentucky. Fake to go all the way with a pass to Adrian Smith. Gives over to Cox, who unopposed moves it into front court and feeds to Adrian Smith with 45 seconds to play. Smith double-teamed and fouled by Rich Rogers. His 3rd foul. Tom Smith, who's in the lineup, 19-year-old sophomore from Davenport, Iowa, 5'10", weighs 170. Adrian Smith on the line. He's hit 9 out of 10. 45 seconds to play, and it is no good. Taken off by Ferry of St. Louis. Dropped it out of bounds. Kentucky gets it directly under their own basket, where Phil Johnson will put it in play. Johnson calls his play, lining him up 4 abreast across the free throw line. A bounce pass to Hatton in the right corner. Out deep to Adrian Smith. We got 30 seconds to go. Kentucky holding on to an 11-point lead. Smith to the left, double team, dribbling out near the dividing line. Gives to Hatton. He's double teamed, fights his way out of there, loses the ball, but picks it up as Johnny Cox comes in to protect him. Shoots it back to Smith, dancing away from Memlitz, who fouled him. For Memlitz, according to us, that's all of it. Memlitz is out of the ball game with 17 seconds to play on 5 fouls. Memlitz comes out with 20 points, 9 field goals, and a pair of free throws. Jim Daly has fouled out for St. Louis, and for Kentucky, Ed Beck, as each team has lost a man. St. Louis 2, Kentucky 1. Phil Johnson comes to the Kentucky bench now to get the steam off his glasses. Adrian Smith on the Kentucky free throw line. He's hit 9 out of 11. Adrian Smith has 19 points, which equals his best night, which was against Maryland. Drops it in and gets the bonus shot. Adrian Smith now with 20 points has had his best offensive night of the season. Bonus shot's good, and Kentucky leads by 13 points, meaning they've outscored St. Louis 7 points in this half. A collision and a desperation shot off his knees. No good, but Tom Smith of St. Louis. Over to Krigler on the rebound to Johnson in front court. 5 seconds to go now. Back to Odie Smith, who comes out deep with it to kill out the clock. 1 second, that's it. It's all over as the ball game ends in favor of Kentucky. And the Wildcats have come back by beating the Billikens of St. Louis. And St. Louis still has never beaten Kentucky in St. Louis, where the Wildcats have just won their 3rd game. Final score, Kentucky 73, St. Louis 60. And the Wildcats and the Billikens are now tied up 4-4 in this 8-game series. Individual scoring in just a moment. A basketball team calls timeout at intervals to secure a little rest and to give the coach an opportunity to send in needed replacements. Times out for your car are just as important because they help to assure you greater safety, comfort, and economy in driving. By taking your car into your Standard Oil dealer for a periodic Kyso lubrication, you'll assure yourself of trouble-free driving, and you'll prevent many repair bills, even accidents. You'll find your Standard Oil dealer anxious to help you secure safe, low-cost transportation. He matches the extra quality of the dependable Standard Oil products he offers you with extra service he renders. And here's that individual scoring. Kentucky tonight in field goals was paced by Johnny Cox, who had 8. And he ended the night's work with 19 points. He had 8 field goals, and on the free throw line, he had 3 for 5. Cox had 11 of his points in the first half. Next, with 7 field goals, was Vernon Hatton, who ended up with 16 points. Hatton had 7 field goals, 2 for 4 on the free throw line. But Kentucky was topped by Adrian Smith, 21 points, with his best night of the year, 2 better than Monday against Maryland when he roped 19. Adrian had 5 field goals and 11 free throws in 13 tries. 21 points to pace the Wildcats. The other scoring, Don Mills, who played only in the second half, 3 points, a field goal, 1 for 3 at the free throw line. Ed Beck, who fouled out with 15 minutes and 4 seconds to play, 1 point on a first half free throw. John Krigler, 6 points on 3 field goals in the first half. Phil Johnson, in a reserve role tonight, picked up 7 points, giving Johnson 16 points this week as he got 9 against Maryland. 3 field goals, 1 for 2 at the free throw line. And that's it for the Wildcats, as Coach Adolph Rupp used 7 men, and they all scored at least 1 point. For St. Louis, Jack Memlitz, who fouled out with 17 seconds to play, had 20 points on 9 field goals and 2 free throws. Jim Daly, who fouled out with 1 minute and 9 seconds to go, had 4 points, 2 field goals, and he missed all 3 of his free throws. Rich Rogers ended up with 6 points on 3 field goals in the second half. George Burkle ended up with 11 points, 5 field goals, 1 for 3 at the free throw line. Bob Ferry, 6 points, all in the first half, 2 field goals, 2 for 4 at the free throw line. Steve Redshaw picked up 2 points in the second half and a field goal. Pete McCaffrey, who ignited that St. Louis drive with 5 points in the second half, 2 field goals and a free throw. And Cal Burnett, the 25-year-old returning starter, ended up with 6 points. 2 field goals, 2 for 3 at the free throw line. And Tom Smith was the only man for either team who played that didn't score. Kentucky led 32-26 at the end of the first half, after St. Louis had 2 6-point leads melt away on them in the first half. And the Cats came back to outscore the Billikens by 7 more points to make the final score 73-60. And those are the highlights from tonight's Kentucky-St. Louis game. The Cats have now won 4 and lost 1 this season. St. Louis is 1-1 for the season. Kentucky now stands tied up 4-4 with the Billikens, who have never been beaten by Kentucky here in St. Louis. 3 of 4 Kentucky wins have come against the Billikens here in St. Louis. Well, we'd like to thank our engineer, Clarence Snyder of St. Louis radio station KMOX. And on Monday night, Standard Oil Company and Standard Oil dealers throughout Kentucky, Alabama, Florida, Georgia, and Mississippi will bring you the game between U of K and Southern Methodist University in Dallas. Be sure to listen in. This may be a long, tough winter, especially if you have an accident. What shape is your car in right now? Brakes and lights okay? Defroster and windshield wipers working well? How about the condition of your tires? The National Safety Council says your car is only as safe as you make it. Check your car before an accident checks you. Now, this is Claude Sullivan speaking from Kiel Auditorium in St. Louis, Missouri, wishing you good night and a pleasant weekend from Standard Oil Company and Standard Oil dealers. Your final score again, Kentucky 73, St. Louis 60. This broadcast has been originated for the Standard Oil Sports Network by Lexington radio station WVLK. This is the Standard Oil Sports Network.